I have an idea for a project in the near future that I think you're going to find interesting. But for this project, I need a special size fuller. I have one that's a little bit too small, and I have one that's way too big, so I think I need to make a fuller that is in between sizes here. But because you frequently ask about things like punches and drift when it comes to making tools with eyes for handles, I thought today we would look at making a nice hammer eye drift. This is the drift in question. I'm going to make a nice long gentle taper on this. So the skinny end will make smaller hammers, and by the time you get up to the top end and bigger eyes, you can do 3-4 pound hammers quite easily with a drift like this. You can certainly make it any length, any size you want to suit your needs in your shop. And since I've been experimenting with the Flutagon and I want to make a larger set of tools out of that steel just to get a good idea how it performs, this drift is going to be made out of Flutagon. It's also called Atlantic 33. So I have a piece of Atlantic 33 or Flutagon that is 1.25 inches square, roughly 7 inches long, and that makes it about 30 millimeters square by 180 millimeters long. This is a fairly straightforward and simple project in a fully equipped shop. Using a power hammer and a big belt grinder is certainly the way to go if you have them. If you don't have those tools available, you can certainly do all the forging by hand at the anvil and then do the final shaping with a hot rasp and a file. Just up to the tools and the skills that you have available and that you're comfortable with in your shop. With the drift forged to the near final dimensions, I want to take this to the belt grinder and grind the final dimensions into this. I'm going to start with a 60 grit belt on the big high-speed grinder and eventually move to a slack belt on the smaller grinder, going to a 220 grit finish at the end. Black Bear Forge is sponsored by Combat Abrasives. Use the link in the video description and the coupon code BLACKBEAR10 for discount on your order. And if you're unfamiliar with the Atlantic 33 or the Flutagon, this is a water hardening steel that does not require tempering. Final hardness is determined by how hot you get it when you harden it. So it takes a little experimenting to see at what color temperature you want to harden this at for the use you have in mind for it. The Flutagon is kind of an expensive steel, so I'm not really recommending it for anybody and everybody, but I think it's got some real potential. The fact that it's water hardening, you can get a tool hot in use, quench it, go right back to work, you don't have to retemper it, don't have to worry about it, really makes it an attractive steel for hot work purposes. So that's a pretty quick, simple project. Again, if you don't have power hammer and belt grinder, you might want to make a smaller drift. Maybe you only want to make this much of the drift for small hammer, make this much of a drift for larger hammer, and make a series of those. Those are a lot easier to make if you're doing it by hand. Just work on the end of the bar and then cut it off when you're done, and you've got a nice, simple little drift. You won't be able to hand hold it because it's probably going to get too hot, but that is certainly an option. I've done a video in the past on making an axe eye drift. It's a little short drift. If you're interested in that, you can see that here. In the meantime, I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you next week.